Okay, so let's unpack this. We're so used to thinking that the cutting edge of power involves, complex metals or some kind of inaccessible chemistry. But today, we're taking a deep dive into a massive leap forward in next generation energy storage. And the secret ingredient is something you probably handled this morning, a polymer.
Exactly. We're exploring the surprising, transformative role of those long, repeating molecular chains polymers and how they are the critical, often overlooked material that is fundamentally reshaping the performance of supercapacitors. This is really material science, tuning what we think of as simple building blocks into high-efficiency power sources.
And supercapacitors are so critical because they bridge that performance gap, right? Between traditional batteries and, well, simple capacitors. We know they deliver these huge bursts of power almost instantly and have that incredible durability lasting through millions of charge and discharge cycles.
That high cycle life is their killer feature, for sure. But they have, historically, lagged behind lithium-ion batteries when it comes to energy density. Our analysis of the sources shows that the solution to closing that gap isn't necessarily a new metal. It's maximizing the efficiency and the structure of the device using advanced polymer science. That's really the mission for us today, understanding why polymers are the key.
I appreciate that focus because, you mentioned polymers seem simple. We see them in everyday packaging, fibers, coatings. They just don't have that glamour of some exotic element.
And that's precisely why they are so transformative and, importantly, scalable in this field. If you look at the demands of next-gen energy devices, you need materials that are flexible, highly durable, chemically resilient, and crucially cost-effective. Polymers offer that unique combination. And most importantly, they have a property we call chemical tunability. They can be customized almost infinitely to meet very precise performance needs.
So if the goal is high performance, getting that starch to move quickly is, well, everything. If we look inside the architecture of a supercapacitor, how are these polymers actually doing the hard work of storing and moving all that energy?
They fulfill three absolutely essential and distinct roles in the device architecture. It really all starts with the charges themselves. We need pathways for extremely rapid ion movement.
Okay, let's call them the charge movers, the conductive parts.
Exactly. These are the conductive polymers. Supercapacitors require, as you said, rapid ion movement and really excellent electrical pathways. Conductive polymers, they drastically improve that electrical conductivity, allowing charges to move easily and efficiently between the electrolyte and the electrode surfaces. And that directly translates to boosting the overall storage capacity and the speed.
But wait, how can a polymer, which we usually associate with being an electrical insulator, suddenly conduct electricity fast enough to deliver instant power? What's the chemical mechanism there?
That's the chemical magic. We're not talking about simple plastics here. We're talking about polymers like polyaniline panni and polypyrrole, or PPY. What makes them so special is their molecular structure. They contain what are called conjugated double bonds, which, well, it effectively creates a semi-continuous highway along the molecular chain for electrons to move very quickly when the material is energized.
So we've essentially created these high-speed internal highways. You mentioned before that they are process-friendly. Beyond just making it easy to manufacture, what does that flexibility mean for a system designer who's trying to scale up production?
It completely changes the economics.
Yeah.
If you can use these materials as a kind of flexible Inca solution with PANI or PPAB in it, you move away from complex fabrication to highly scalable, low-cost techniques. I mean, things like roll-to-roll printing or just coating large surface areas cheaply. This ability to coat or print or shape electrodes so easily is the real difference between a high-cost lab prototype and a low-cost component that can be mass-adopted in, well, everything from consumer electronics to large-scale grid buffers.
Okay, so that addresses the electrodes themselves. But speed is useless if the medium the ions travel through the electrolyte is slow or dangerous or inhibits flexibility. I mean, liquid electrolytes leak, and that was always the main drawback for building truly flexible tech.
And here's where it gets really interesting. That leads us right to the second essential role, polymer electrolytes. By suspending the ion-carrying salts in a solid or semi-solid polymer matrix, like a PVA-based hydroshell, we just eliminate the liquid hazard entirely.
So these polymer electrolytes make the whole device inherently safer, leak-proof, and suddenly suitable for being bent or folded or even stretched over and over.
Precisely. They are the critical innovation for realizing flexible and wearable applications. These polymer gels, they hold the ions and conduct electricity, but with the added mechanical strength needed to withstand continuous stress. Think about a flexible phone or a smart textile. It's not about surviving a single drop. It's It's about surviving thousands of bending cycles. One source I saw noted that with a specific polymer electrolyte, devices kept 95% efficiency after 1,000 extreme bending cycles. That's the kind of durability you get when you replace a liquid with a resilient polymer scaffold.
That's the real link between lab work and practical use. I mean, a flexible power source is useless if it degrades after you use it a few times. So we have the conductive electrodes, that's role one. The flexible, safe electrolyte is role two. What's the third essential piece of the puzzle that polymers are dominating?
That would be rule number 3. Polymer-based separators. These are the crucial gatekeepers inside the device. They're often overlooked, but they are absolutely vital for safety and performance. They are these thin, insulating layers that sit right between the positive and negative electrodes. Their job is simple, but critical. Keep the electrodes apart to prevent short circuits while still allowing the ions, the charge carriers, to pass freely through.
So it sounds like a constant trade-off. It needs to be permeable enough for ions, but a perfect insulator for electrons.
Exactly. And the polymer choice here is key to managing that balance. By selecting the right material for this layer, manufacturers get huge benefits, like improved thermal stability, which is vital for safety under high charging loads, and enhanced mechanical strength. Ultimately, that polymer separator contributes significantly to the device's long-term operational lifespan. Every single component really relies on the stability that polymers provide.
Okay, we've covered structure and the basic function. Now let's move into the truly innovative edge, the high-tech approach that pushes performance into, well, battery territory. You mentioned chemical tunability. What does it actually mean when we say these materials can be tuned?
The power of tunability is what makes polymers superior to fixed inorganic materials. Polymer chains are just inherently modifiable. A scientist can chemically alter their structure to optimize for specific properties, whether that's boosting conductivity, improving mechanical resilience, or enhancing the surface area for charge absorption.
So they can essentially just dial in the perfect material characteristics for a specific application, like making the material stiffer for a robotic part or softer for a medical patch.
Precisely. We can control the porosity of the polymer structure, which is vital for creating more internal surface area for ions to interact with, and that increases storage capacity. Or the most powerful method is something called doping. By introducing tiny amounts of specific chemicals, we can dramatically alter the electrical potential and conductivity of materials like PPI or PANNI, making them hyper-efficient.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but if you're customizing every single polymer for every application, doesn't that just increase manufacturing complexity and cost? I mean, doesn't this put them at a disadvantage compared to standardized lithium systems?
That's a really important practical question. The complexity is front-loaded in the research phase. Once the optimal polymer structure is found, for example, one that's been grafted with specific functional groups for stability, that recipe is scalable. And it's still vastly cheaper per unit volume than systems that rely on exotic metals. The low initial material cost really outweighs the complexity of the chemical tuning.
And this tuning, it often leads to what's called hybridization. This sounds like a powerful marriage, the flexibility and low cost of the polymer meeting the immense performance of advanced nanomaterials.
It creates a synergistic, a mutually beneficial relationship. We are seeing incredible results when polymers act as the flexible, stable binder for materials like graphene, carbon nanotubes, metal oxides, or the incredibly exciting class of materials called MZene.
MZene. That's a term we see so often in advanced energy research. For the listener, what exactly is the role MZene plays in this kind of polymer hybrid?
Well, emazine is a fascinating class of two-dimensional materials. They're transition metal carbides or nitrides. Its structure is layered and highly organized. Think of it like a tiny accordion under a microscope. When you integrate it with a polymer binder, that structure provides immense stacked internal surface area. Emazine acts like microscopic shelving units that can physically hold a huge number of ions in a very small space, and that provides exceptional electrochemical performance.
So if we use the polymer as the flexible glue holding these dense shelving units together,
Exactly, the glue or the scaffold.
we get a supercapacitor that approaches the energy density of a battery, but it still retains the instant speed of a capacitor. Is there still a performance trade-off compared to the best batteries?
There is always a trade-off. The current limitation is primarily volume. While the energy density per mass is rising dramatically, meaning the device is very light for the power it holds, the volume it takes up can still be large compared to high-end lithium-ion batteries. However, that gap is closing every day, And the cycle life of the hybrid system, we're talking millions of cycles, guaranteed, that far outweighs any current volume disadvantage for systems that need instant bursts of reliable maintenance-free power.
That emphasis on durability and instant power really defines its niche. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've gone deep into PANI, PI, and MEA, but how are these highly tuned polymer-driven devices actually showing up in the real world right now?
Well, this polymer-driven ecosystem is already fueling the next wave of practical applications, particularly where space, weight, and flexibility are the biggest constraints, which, when you think about it, is most places outside of your car.
I imagine flexible and wearable electronics are at the top of that list.
Absolutely. The biggest immediate shift is in distributed, continuous power for things like biometric monitoring and smart textiles. One source highlighted a pp graphene hybrid capacitor that was integrated into a smart bandage to monitor wound healing. The power source needs to be ultra-thin, it has to conform to the body, and it has to deliver constant reliable power to tiny sensors for days without any risk of leakage or overheating.
That moves way beyond simple gadgets into critical medical integration. What about scaling up, though, beyond the body? Do these polymers start showing up in electric vehicles or larger grid storage systems?
They do, though often in supportive roles. Because they cycle so quickly and robustly, they act as power buffers. In an electric vehicle, for instance, polymer-based supercapacitors are highly effective in kinetic energy recovery systems. They capture energy instantly when the car brakes and then release it just as fast during acceleration. This protects the main lithium-ion battery, extends its life, and it improves the whole system's efficiency.
And what about for that massive distributed network of devices we call the Internet of Things, or IoT?
For the IoT, they're essential. IoT devices are small, distributed, and they often have to rely on energy harvesting, little solar cells, kinetic pads, things like that. Because they're lightweight and can charge rapidly from these intermittent, low-level environmental sources, polymer-based supercapacitors are perfect for providing the reliable, regulated power those devices need to function continuously and report data. They really are the backbone of self-powered sensors in smart environments.
It's remarkable how the inherent traits of polymers' flexibility, low cost, and that tunability suddenly make them the bottleneck breaker for innovation in so many different fields.
Hmm.
It really proves that the most advanced technologies often rely on the most adaptable materials.
That is the core takeaway here. Polymers are no longer just components in the device. They are the mechanical backbone and the electrochemical scaffolding. They are the driving force behind the creation of energy storage technologies